I stopped being the guy that people would point at and be like, oh, he sang Glad You Came. And it immediately switched into, that's the guy who's just lost his friend.
The journey to doing this album obviously started with, you're having an album, ditching it to go and do that tour with Tom and the rest of the band.
Yeah.
Then coming back to this album, how did that experience shape how you've done this album?
So the last track on the album called Time to Say Goodbye, it's the only track that I wrote before the tour, and then everything else was after the tour. So it's kind of just acknowledging that there is a massive chapter of my life that is just about to close, and it's a closing of the book, not just the chapter, and it's coming to peace with that and accepting that, which I think was a really tricky thing to do. But then after the tour, I was like, I want to have fun.
Yeah.
I need to be more kind of happy, I guess, because it was a really sad time. When I was at home and I was walking around town and things like that, I stopped being the guy that people would point at and be like, oh, he sang Glad You Came, or oh my God, he sang My First Dance over and over again. And you kind of, that stopped, and it immediately switched into, that's the guy who's just lost his friend. And it was like, like everyone knew.
You're under the spotlight for a completely different reason there.
And it really it was really difficult, because you kind of get used to like, oh, he sings Glad You Came, and you kind of go, yep, that's me, lovely to meet you. But then when it turned into that, I didn't actually know kind of how to react anymore. So I kind of just locked myself away. And then the only time I was leaving the house was to go to the studio. And I was like, if I'm leaving the studio and driving 3.5 hours to go to London, I need to be happy. So that's where Butterflies, Getting Lost, Pieces of Me, that's where those songs came from. Just a need to feel happier.